I've known you for a little while now, but could you just tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, like maybe where you did your studies and all that?
Yeah, so I'm from Palatine, Illinois, which is a suburb of Illinois, about 45 minutes from the city.
Hmm.
And I was very lucky that in high school, because I was 45 minutes from Northwestern, my teachers were from Third Coast.
Oh,
So
cool.
I was able to study with Rob Dylan, I think, for 2 years, and then Peter Martin for a year. And it was because they were poor college kids, and my school was good about having lesson students, so they came out to my school. So from there, I guess like getting involved with music, which really helped me. I did like the Chicago Youth Symphony Orchestra,
Yeah, yeah.
which was big in terms of like getting better and kind of understanding what I needed to do outside of my public school. And then I went to Northwestern and studied with Sheehy and James Ross and Chris Lamb for my undergrad.
Mhm.
And then I moved to Denton, Texas to go to the University of North Texas for my master's, and that's currently where I reside.
Yeah, nice. And you just finished up. When did you finish up with your master's?
2016?
Yeah, and so since then you've kind of stayed in the area. And what have you been up to since then?
Yeah, and that's actually advice I give to anyone going to get a master's. You should plan to go to school wherever you want to live because
That's good.
generally, yeah, you start making connections in your master's more so than in your undergrad, and you start getting more gigs, and you start really just kind of cementing a track for you once you're done with school. So it's smart to think about where you want to live before you get stuck there.
That's
Um,
actually really good advice. I haven't
yeah,
actually thought about that.
I can't remember if someone told that to me or if I was just like 3 years in Texas and I was like, oh, this kind of makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's super hip. Yeah.
Yeah.
So since you graduated in 2016, you mentioned the connections. What have you been doing?
Yeah, so when I was first done, I was still actively taking auditions to make an orchestra, or I was taking a lot of Army auditions. So I was practicing a lot for that, and I was taking audition or lessons with some of the guys from the Fort Worth Symphony and some of the Dallas Symphony, just checking in, which was very beneficial for my playing because I didn't have to be in school, and I was very focused on literally just technique.
Mhm.
So I took a couple auditions. That was fun. And at the time, I was gigging with a bunch of the regional orchestras. I got to play with Fort Worth, which was dope.
Hey.
Um, Abilene Symphony, Texarkana Symphony, and there Las Colinas Symphony were the ones I was kind of making rounds at. And that was fun. And then I'm like I don't really do that anymore, and I don't know why. It was like the year I started Spectrum, stopped getting called for orchestra gigs.
Interesting.
I don't really know if there's a connection, but that was just like something I absolutely noticed. Or like when I stopped taking, stopped going for orchestral auditions, stopped getting calls. So I don't know if that's just a mentality or what, but I didn't get worse at playing. So
No, of course not.
I didn't piss anyone off, I don't think.
No.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't actually imagine that. So,
Oh no, it's easier than you think.
uh,
Um, but yeah, so I haven't been gigging with orchestras at all, but I have been playing with, they're called the DFW Brass, so I play timpani with them, and it's just a brass quintet, and we go turn it up at churches. And
yes, I like the pictures with the shirts on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was feeling sassy that day at the church, so I want
Yeah,
to
I
make
love that.
it. But yeah, so I've been doing some of that, and then it was basically post-school, I just kept finding opportunities to force myself to play, to
Hmm.
practice. So I was like, I did WPG. That was like a thing I did
Yeah, yeah.
after school. I toured with Heartland Marimba, and that was literally to keep playing marimba because it's my least favorite instrument.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just the hardest for me, so I never want to do it, obviously.
Dang.
Um, so that was like to force me to keep playing marimba over the summer so I didn't lose any chops and stuff like that. So I've been very, meticulous with playing opportunities. And then from there, I started Spectrum Ensemble, which is a new music ensemble featuring LGBTQ artists and composers,
Mhm.
just giving them a spotlight for their music and their talents. And that was a product of going on tour with Heartland Marimba. Matthew
Oh,
Coley, you know who he is.
mhm.
He's gay, which I think most people know at this point. I don't think it's a surprise anymore.
Yeah.
But when we were on tour, it was like me, him, and another girl, Bridget. I can't remember how to say her last name, but she was dope. So we were just every day we would practice or go somewhere to play. We'd come back and we watch RuPaul's Drag Race. And
Oh, yeah.
the best summer ever. And I remember Matthew turned to me when we were just hanging out and he was like, this is the gayest I've gotten to feel on a tour. And I was furious.
Oh, no.
I was like, what do you mean this is the gayest? And like, he's, I would say, the next generation above me. He's like maybe 10 years off me. So like, I'm the one that finally made him feel like I was only like 23, 24, 25 at the time. That sucks. That sucks. You've been in that position. Yeah. So I credit him a lot to like really trying to start Spectrum Ensemble to create a platform where musicians can amplify the fact that they are gay.
Yeah.
Because why wouldn't that be part of our performance and our music and stuff like that?
Absolutely.
That's been my main project, I would say, then, for the last year and a half. It was like as soon as I decided I wasn't going to do auditions anymore, I put all my energy into this project with my, what is it called? My co-founder, Stephen Hall, who is a compadre from Northwestern. We did our undergrad together. He was a year older than me.
Oh, man, that's great. Well,
Yeah.
Since we're on this subject then, I was going to save this for later, but since you've been so much in the forefront, especially in our world, the percussion world, specifically like fighting for the LGBTQ, doing composers and like basically commissioning works and things like that. How do you feel being so forward and open about your personal life? How's it affected your teaching and your playing?
So I would say that this is something I got in trouble for as a kid. Like, I talk a lot, and I don't really teach. People say I'm like an open book. When people meet me, they're like, wow, I feel like I've known you for so long. And it's because I ask inappropriate questions first, and I give inappropriate information first, or I make jokes that are inappropriate. You know what I mean? So, like, I get to know people very fast.
That's
Wait,
awesome.
say the question again. Say the question again.
Do what?
Say your question again, because I lost it. Being on
No
the
worries.
phone.
It's just
Okay,
being
yeah.
so, yeah, you got it.
Okay, yeah. So, I remember one of my teachers literally told me when I was going for auditions, don't talk too much. I had another professor literally sit me down, and she said, look at the most important person in the room and make sure you're not talking more than him. Yeah, so like pretty
That's
bullshit
pretty serious.
things to say, actually. And I remember being pretty messed up about it. Like, I was very upset that these things, and I was like, yeah, okay, I get it. But I think now, and like, I didn't have much to say back then too. Like, to be fair, like, what was I even saying? But now, as I'm getting older, like, I wouldn't say it's changed my teaching or changed anything about me, because it's always been the same. But I think I finally have information now to back up my mouth, which is helpful, and experiences that I can draw from. And I would say it's been great being a gay teacher, like, in general. And I think for a lot of reasons. One, I'm most of the time the first gay person or the only gay person these people will meet.
Oh.
And I think I'm pretty cool and pretty good at what I do. So now I'm giving them the opinion that gay people, like, if you're only going off the one person you meet, gay people are pretty cool and pretty good at what they do.
That's
And I'm
pretty
happy. Yeah, and I'm happy to be that, like, one person they're going to meet. And it's, like, a lot of kids I'm in front of. In the fall, or, like, last year, I was in front of 60 kids a week teaching lessons. And then on top of that, I would teach sectionals between 6 to 10 kids at 3 different schools. So you could say I'm in front of, like, 80 kids a week. And then, because I'm there so much, I had, like, little clarinet players who were obviously gay being so excited to say hi to me. You know what I mean? Just because I'm that staple, of like someone they can look up to that they don't see.
Man, that's awesome.
That's been cool. And I have had opportunities to like flex. Like one time, my boy, this student, he came in, dope purple shoes. And I was like, buddy, I love your shoes. They're so cool. They're so purple. He's like, these are red and blue. I was like, okay, but they like mix together and that makes purple, so I don't know what to tell you. And so then it was like 3 weeks. He's a middle schooler. He was, 7th grade? So it was like 3 weeks. Dope shoes, dope shoes, dope shoes. All of a sudden, shoes are gone.
Oh.
I was like, what happened to your shoes, bud? Like, did they get dirty or are these new? He's like, no, I had these. And he was like, my stepdad and brother told me they were gay. So I don't think I was like, oh! So I immediately texted his mother, and I was like, hey, just heads up, says he's not going to wear these shoes anymore because they're gay. And so and I'm not mad. I'm not mad that, like, someone used gay derogatorily. That's fine. I don't care about that. It's the the steps that will happen because this happened. So like because, and I explained this to the mom, because her first text was, I'm so sorry, we have so many gay friends. But like, of course, we don't mean anything by it, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, no, for sure, I'm not upset. What upsets me now is your son thinks it's appropriate to use the words "that's gay" to describe something. And now he will say this to one of his friends. And he will accidentally say this in front of a gay kid. And why does that kid feel safe to come out now? Yeah. That was like my explanation, because I don't care. I used to say stuff was gay. You know what I mean? In the gay community, when that was when we were in school, and like, that's so gay, gay kids were also saying that. You know what I mean? It was just part of the culture. And it doesn't upset me. And no, you shouldn't do it, because you shouldn't mean gay is stupid. But it's further than that, because there's a whole younger generation who we can keep from this. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, we don't have to keep doing those stereotypes, keep saying stuff like that, you know?
No, it's time to actually change it. You know, everything else around us is changing. Why not this? You know, it's good for you. I think, you know, I haven't actually thought about the trail, you know, that comes from that. And I think that's really hip. So good for you. Good for you.
And I'll do it even if someone says that's so gay. I'll be like, are you talking about me? Are you saying it's like me? Because I don't really understand the context. Good. And so just like twisting kids' brains to make them feel stupid usually works.
Oh, yeah. Students respond to violence and like being embarrassed, you know, so I think that's great. That's great. Yeah. So speaking like on the teacher realm, what were you up to during the pandemic? Like when it hit you guys and you went online and things like that, what were you doing?
I was very lucky in the fact that I've kind of learned, so I'm lucky that I have so many students, and I realize that's a rarity. And I've tried to think what I do differently that helps me keep students more or less. And one thing, and this is kind of, it goes into the pandemic. I'm very good, especially when kids are beginners, because I've been at my same district now for 3 years, maybe 4 years. And when kids are beginners, if they're doing very well, or if they're falling behind, or if they're literally just not practicing, I like keeping the parents informed. Just like, hey, heads up, it's not going to be fun for him anymore because he is falling behind, and it's not because he's bad, it's because he's lazy. Stuff like that is usually the conversation. So then parents get to know me, and by year 3, like, the students are more communicating with me, but they know who I am. They know what I'm about. So as soon as the pandemic hit, I got texts from parents saying, we want to make sure you're taken care of. Can we start online lessons with you? One mom even started paying me $80 a month just because, like, yeah, it was like very, very great. I did lose students. I went from like 60 to, at the beginning of the pandemic, I was at 40. But now summertime, I'm like less than 20. Yeah. It was really good. It made me not stressed, which was great. So I maintained an online studio of about 40. And then because it was right around the time we were supposed to do solo ensemble contest, I did an online solo contest.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, which was super cute and gave a chance for the kids to just learn their music. Because I've also learned with students, if you don't know, if there's no reason to practice, they will not. So most kids get a lot better when you force them to perform. And that happened with quite a few kids where, like, they really, the 2 weeks before, man, they got in gear.
Yeah. So when you did the online, like, solo and ensemble, how did that work? Did they, like, how'd that go?
It was a disaster, but it was fine because I like had my little like steel drum that I was like putting tunes in the middle. It was like I gave everyone a time, and it was about an hour and a half, and I said, please call in during this time on Zoom, and then I'll let you in the waiting room and you can play when it's your turn. Generally, there weren't too many delays. There were like 2 performances we couldn't even hear, but they didn't care. And it was the Zoom quality type of thing. But in general, that worked, except for a couple kids who either lost the Zoom link or forgot to do the Zoom link. And then I just had them FaceTime me because my screen was shared anyway. So they just called in, and I was like texting while I was doing all of it.
Man.
I wouldn't recommend. I'm sure there's easier ways to do that I did. But it worked, and the kids felt good, and the parents were happy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, parents love to see their kids do something, you know, especially when it's a bigger audience. So knowing that you did that, that sort of technology, was that ideal for you, or what would you change, you know, when we have to go back online? Or if we go back online?
I think something important based on, because I've noticed like for online teaching has been very beneficial for some students. Some of my students who like one was like really bad in his class and he was shamed by his compadres. He's like doing it. He can read all versions of 16th notes now, going into ninth, you know what I mean? Like one E and he's counting them out loud. One E isn't getting him. So I'm really excited about that. And there was another student too who like not being around people, him just practicing and focusing and not having to worry about it. He got so like he might be one of the best beginners now. And he hasn't even been around his friends. And the kids that used to be better have no idea that this kid just caught them.
All right.
That's cool. But I would say things that are hard is the angles. Okay. I would really like if I could have an overhead shot, like
multi-cameras kind of thing?
Yeah, like that would be something I would need to make sure that the quality of teaching, because I wouldn't say my quality of teaching is as good as when it was in person, because I can't grab your hand and show you physically how your arms need to be moving.
For sure.
But one thing that is helpful, like, I can be like, look at my fingers here. This needs to say here. And, like, that's pretty helpful because they can visually see huge in front of their face.
Absolutely.
What's happening. But I would say making sure everyone knows the correct Zoom buttons is something I need to make sure happens. And then if I could do, because some of my lessons I'm like, I think I heard you play that right, but let me just aggressively watch. I'm too lazy to tell them to change their settings. I'd rather just suffer for 25 minutes. But yeah, multi-camera would be the biggest thing that I would like for any instrument, just to show them the different angles my hands are playing.
And do you think, I mean, that's excellent. Do you think you guys are going to be online? How is it looking for you down there?
Luckily, I am so thankful, and I just made a shady post about it on Facebook because I live in Denton, and I have kids, my physical kids, my kids who go to school in Denton, and then I teach in Tarrant County. So Tarrant County just announced that we will be online for the first 6 weeks.
Got you.
Which is great. They're like the first ones to do it, and I'm very happy they did.
Yes.
And I made a post, and here's another thing that I don't like that I keep seeing. People keep saying how much they like miss their students and how like they're happy to be going back because they miss their kids. And I posted in my post, I was like, I miss my kids, but I would miss living more.
Absolutely. That's done.
I'm so over people saying, like, how much they miss their kids or trying to find, like, some good reason they're going back. It's like, no, the kids won't miss us. The kids will go on by themselves. I would like to not be put in a position where I might die.
Yes. Yeah. Or, like, someone that you love might die, you know?
Yes.
Just transmitting it to someone else. Like, I just had a student tested positive. He's one of my university students, and he was actually in the schools teaching drumline at the time. And so they had to shut it down. Everyone's getting tested, you know? And so it gave me a glimpse of like, that could be, I mean, we could start the first week, second week gone, you know? It's
what we're doing is constantly playing catch up. We're not being proactive.
Absolutely.
It's like, let's see. Oh no, now we're behind 2 more weeks instead of just figuring out how we can make this work until December, honestly.
Exactly. Until we get a vaccine, I just don't know what we're going to do. And even then, it's still around, you know? That's crazy. So, yeah, that's excellent. I like this conversation a lot. So since we're still on education, where do you see the future of music education going? Do you think it's actually permanently stopped and this is it? Or
No. I doubt it. It'd never stop. I think if anything, kids in these next 2 years are going to be like pretty bad fundamental musicians. You know what I mean? And then like, well, and I'm speaking specifically in Texas because like, I don't know. Have you taught in Texas in general?
I have not, no.
Okay, let me give a glimpse for people who like have. So I work for, it's called LD Bell High School, okay? And it is one of the like really good high schools around here. They won BOA back in like 2004, okay? Cool. Yeah, so like the program's strong. It's already well defined. So my boss, I call him my boss. They keep telling me to stop calling them boss. My boss is Ben Mockmer, and he is in charge of the high school percussion and the feeder middle school beginner percussions. So we currently have 40 high school percussionists, and he sees them, in the fall, he'll see them every day for marching band in the morning.
Gotcha.
In the middle of the year, we do percussion ensemble, and he gets a schedule stacked, period 1, 2, and 3, every day of high school percussionists. And that's how they practice for percussion ensemble. So like just a question for people who are like, why are the Texas kids so good and stuff like that? It's quantity. It's because they physically are in front of a teacher every day. You would also be good if you had the funds to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's every day for him. And then he goes to 2 different, and this is the standard for every high school. He goes to 2 different middle schools to teach the beginner classes.
Okay.
And then I come in, and this isn't as standard. A lot of times the teachers will do this. I teach a sectional to all the kids who will have to do region music, so all the top band kids early in the morning at 2 of the schools. And then I teach first period fundamentals for like the second band kids in the middle school.
Okay.
So, and again, that's like they have band every day. The beginners are literally with a teacher every day. They're learning how to drum. So that's when I say the technique of the next 2 years will be bad. It's because they physically won't have a teacher in front of them every day.
Exactly.
Type of thing. But in terms of like every other state, it's fine. Like I didn't get good from going to band. I became better because my teacher gave me something to work on, and I actually worked on it.
Yeah, there you go. So as a private teacher there, like all of us, what do you think our role is going to be like moving forward?
Ooh, yes. Well, this is actually something that I learned progressing into teaching. Like when I first moved here from Chicago, I came in with like, I'm going to make all these kids so good. Play this De La Clues, play this hard shit. And it's just like, what are you doing? And like some of them could do it and some of them got pretty good, but it was more like dragging teeth than like, so from that, I've learned if you want a kid to practice, you get them to like you. If they like you and they respect you, they don't want to embarrass themselves in front of you. So, like, especially my bread and butter I'm learning is middle school. I'm very good at teaching middle school.
That's a hard age. Good for you.
High energy.
Yeah.
I talk faster than them. I move faster than them. They can't keep up. If they want to get distracted, they physically do not have enough time.
I love that. That's awesome.
So that's one thing, having them just like constantly going, because no one wants to listen at 10, 11, 12. Don't tell me anything. I don't want to hear you talk for 10 minutes. I want to move my hands. I want to drum. So my goal with beginners is to like physically make them go as much as possible. In terms of our role as educators, so we do need to motivate. But we also need to, unless you're at the college position, like my position right now where I'm in high school, the grand scheme of percussion for these kids' lives does not matter. And I like actively will remind them that if I'm screaming at them because they can't figure out how to make a drag, I'll be like real intense for about 5 minutes and be like, nope, no. And then I'll be like, hey, just a reminder, none of this matters. Okay, so don't get mad. It doesn't. I say this all the time. We have a problem in the college institution of relating our self-worth to our musicianship.
Oh, that is, yeah. Say that again. That's solid.
Yeah. If you're not practicing, it doesn't make you a shit person.
Yeah.
It does not. It just means you're lazy, which still doesn't make you a bad person. It just maybe means you shouldn't be in music because like it's so hard. You have to stay proactive and be so self-motivated post-college to have a career in music.
Absolutely. No, I'm learning more about that right now, because they train you in school. You're like, do the thing. And academia. Yeah, but when you get out there, you're like, wait a second, I can be a person and like maybe actually talk about life, or like maybe I can have a life, like that.
Oh my God.
And then actually for me, I'm discovering over the pandemic, like what that actually means. Like, what does it mean to like take a break and strip away your self-value from that instrument behind me, and that's excellent. So how has that been received in the last 3 years when you're doing that? Are they on board? Are they like, yeah?
Oh yeah, kids are on board. And I say it, I'm like half these kids' therapists.
Yeah.
Like truly, because I'll start every lesson like, how you doing? How's school going? Are you passing all your classes? What video games do you like playing? That's another thing I've learned. Trying to make more video game analogies for these little baby boys is very helpful. Like trying to do a paradiddle when they like can't figure it out, or like trying to teach them how to stay with the metronome. I'm like, yo, bro, this is like you're gaming and you have to hit X every time this pops up. And they're like, oh, that makes sense. You know what I mean?
That's hip. Yeah.
Yeah. So trying to find these little analogies to have them connect with. And I do try, like I'm high energy the first 3 lessons, then I'm pretty, like for beginners, I start really happy at every beginning year. I give them the benefit of the doubt. And then by the time they aren't practicing, I get pretty mean. But usually there's something, like even if they're not practicing, well, the beginners get better no matter what because they're in class every day drumming with a teacher.
Yeah.
So that's pretty great. It's like the second band kids, they didn't make the top band. Those are the kids that are harder to try to motivate.
Yeah.
But yeah, so our role as musicians right now, or as educators, honestly, is to make sure our students are fine during this process.
Just
Like,
mentally.
yeah, like who cares? And it's hard to say it again at the college level, because if they're trying to make careers of performing, you have to be performing still. You have to. And like, especially if you're, I don't know, I go both ways on this statement. It's hard for me to imagine a world where you can create a student who's better than you. You know what I mean? Because like, how, at least on the intellectual level, you know what I mean? Because I have kids in the drumline little world whose chops are so much better than mine. So much better than mine.
Oh, kids are freaks now. Yeah,
their hands are freaks, yeah. But like, if you can't communicate how to be musical past a certain point, how will your students be able to become musical past a certain point? So as an educator, I think it's like very important, and again, I'm talking at the college level because you're going to go on then and educate. It's very important that you try to maximize how good of a player you can be, so then you can pass it down. If you're not continuously trying to fix your own problems, how will you help children fix their problems then? I think that's something that gets, like, are you going to go performance route or education route? And people think education, and they get screwed because they have to learn every freaking other instrument, for sure. So it takes up a lot of time. But if you can't master your own instrument, or just, like, master the concept of your instrument, how can you then teach it to someone without mastery? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it's funny to me, like, I think everyone as a performer, there's very few that don't teach, you know? And it's like, as a performer, if that's the route you're going, you're going to be teaching, whether it's like actually speaking on stage, or like maybe interacting with the audience, or you have a private studio of middle schoolers. Like, everyone's going to be teaching, because it's important to pass this forward, you know? And so that's great. Thank you so much. Before I ask my last question, is there anything that you wanted to talk about or add to anything that we've gone over so far, or anything?
No, not really. I would like to plug how good my kids are, because I'm so proud of them constantly.
Plug them. That's awesome.
Yeah, so like, we were very successful this year going to PASIC. We like did the this past fall, obviously not this coming fall. We did the chamber competition, the high school chamber competition, and we swept. It was so good. And like, one of the judges told us, and this is what I tell my kids. I get so excited because I made this poor boy, he's my favorite, Parker. He's a great ensemble player. He's in high school now. He became my glockenspiel god, man. I had upstroking. Then he started doing this crap on top of the glockenspiel. So when it was incredible. But I would like freak out and be like, "You're playing better than college kids. You're playing better than college kids." And it was so gratifying when we did that competition, and one of the judges told all my kids, "You're playing better than college kids."
Yo,
yeah, dude. I was like, "That's it. That's it."
That's the top.
Yeah.
Good
so that was something very exciting that happened for me this year, going with that. And then I've had kids audition for college before, but this is like my baby. I feel like he is going to be like one of my friends for a long time, because he's such a hard worker. He just got into Florida State for next year.
Yo, congratulations. That's super hip.
And I'll say it just because, like, I'll stroke my own ego because it made me feel so good. Parks texted me after my kid auditioned, and he was like, he like outplayed the grad student auditions on snare drum.
Yo.
And he was like, "A lot of teachers don't know what you're doing. You're not one of them." And I was like, "Oh my god."
That is he never says that stuff.
I was
so good. That's awesome.
I was very happy, and like, this kid's insane and practices. Like, I can't take the credit, but I just constantly give him information, so that's cool.
That's what a teacher does. You know, good for you. Now, that's the sign. You know, not that like getting a student into grad school is like, "Oh, you're awesome," but the sign that he's there and that he's excited and like still doing it. Like, that's a sign of motivation on another level.
Yeah. And that's like, that's been a huge thing with this poor boy in general. And I think it'll keep happening as I have more students going on to college. Just his panic in the last 6 months between like, will I make enough money? I want to quit. I'm overwhelmed. We went through a lot of emotions, me and this poor boy, in the last like 4 months prepping for college type of thing. You know what I mean? And they're all valid. He's like, what if, like, He's 18 and figuring out what he wants to do for the rest of his life. None of that makes sense when you think about it.
No, it doesn't. I was just talking about this the other day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our brains aren't even ready for that yet. You know?
It's wild. It's absolutely wild. So just the reassurance that, like, hey, if you quit, no one's going to be disappointed in you. Hey, if you want to switch majors, that's totally fine because you can probably make more money doing that. Mm. You know what I mean? Just, like, reassuring kids that, like, if you pick music, it's not the end-all, be-all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's just great. You know, there's this, go ahead.
What even are the jobs anymore? There are no jobs. So what are you even practicing for?
Correct. And if they are, like now with this pandemic, people are rethinking everything. So it doesn't even matter as long as you're happy, you know, like, and then I guess, you know, at 18, trying to figure out what makes you happy besides video games and popcorn or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
who even knows?
Yeah, I don't even, I'm
like, my mom buying my food made me happy and I didn't know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I didn't know till way later that my mother paying for my groceries was it, dude.
Oh yeah, that's solid. Like, that's a good mom right there.
I'm like years out. That was like when I was in high school, but that's fine.
Yeah, whatever works, you know.
Yeah.
Well, this has been super exciting. Like, I'm energized now, and it's making me excited to go back to school. So I do believe you when you say your personality is extreme. So good for you. Don't lose that, please. So with everything, it's awesome. So just with everything that you're doing in the world, especially for the LGBTQ, you're in the forefront. Like I said before, like I know you just did an interview with your alma mater, and like you're on the diversity panel. And you're doing discussions about diversity at PASIC and all these things. What are the final words that you could say to someone who's entering this fall semester and basically is not excited about it? What's something you could say to get them excited?
Well, I want to say two things first, because you are right. Like, my name's popping up a lot right now. I have to say, for listening, this hasn't been the last 6 months. Like, this is that, like, I just came out with an LGBTQ sheet. That was 2 years ago. I did that thing. You know what I mean? Yes. So it's a lot of things are just aligning right now, and like the world is helping to make queer visibility more important. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I think it's just timely that I have been an advocate this whole time, but it just hasn't been our rotation yet, type of thing. Mm-hmm. And so for people just thinking like, oh, well, what are they doing that, like, what do I need to be doing that they're doing? Just constantly have a plan. That's what I always do. I have like 4 plans. And like, if one doesn't work out, I bet you the other 3 will. It's fine. Or 1 from the 4 will. So you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. I have thousands of baskets all the time. And luckily, it just happened that these 5 things hit all at once.
Yeah. That's a sign of hard work, though. You know, you don't actually see all the work until like the final process, you know.
Yeah, so just like stay motivated, people. Like, for people who need to hear that, it's not about immediate gratification, because a lot of this isn't immediate. What's happening for me right now, it's been like a couple things in the makings and blah 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 blah. What would I say to people starting in the fall? Your emotional and mental health are the most important thing during a pandemic. Like, that comes first, to make sure that you're fine. So make sure you're fine, make sure you're sleeping enough, make sure you're eating the correct amounts of food. Please wear a frickin' mask if you have to go anywhere where they're making you go in person, because this isn't a joke anymore, and little kids are absolutely about to start dying if they don't figure this out.
Yeah.
I'm not a medical professional or science at all, but my opinion, based on what I've read, is that but I would say also, music is supposed to be fun at its core. Why are we doing it? Because we like it. That's why we started. And if you don't like it anymore, you need to stop and think why. And it doesn't mean you have to quit, but what aspects of it are not fun anymore? Is it the practicing? If you hate practicing, that might be a sign that maybe you shouldn't keep doing music. But that's like the only one I would say. If you like practicing, if you can get to a practice room, but there's something about it that's making you hate it, think about why, because it shouldn't be like that. Music's always supposed to be fun. I think we also spend too much time thinking music's for us when it's not. Music is for like our audience, and like how can you make your audience feel good, especially right now? And like, no offense, I don't think like con variations is gonna make your audience feel good right now. You know what I mean?
No.
So like, what kind of music can we give to people, to our audiences, that are enjoyable, that we want to listen to, and that aren't just specifically about growth as a, like a technical growth as a musician?
Well said. Yeah, well said. I think that I know that people are going to be excited to hear what you just said. So this is I feel energized.